Adam's greatest travel story.
I'm going big.
To this episode of Tripology, the only travel podcast that takes place actually on the road. I'm Alun, and I'm here with the ever orange Adam.
Orange, of course, the only colour that isn't associated with an emotion.
Yeah, I did a bit of French for you. Orange.
Orange. Yeah, French is featuring in many episodes. It's not a new theme. We're not branching out. We're not trying to capture a new audience.
It's because I've really come to think of you equally as a Frenchman as I do as an Englishman.
Why is that?
I just think you display the cultural attributes of the French quite prominently in your personality.
Oh, God, we won't go into any detail. I have thought on many occasions maybe my spirit was French. I think I identify more as a French person than an English person.
Yeah, and I treat you as such. With contempt. I love everyone, including the French.
Yeah, we got a bit of news this week, mate, haven't we?
Yeah.
It's going to be a bloody big episode. I'm going big, I'm not going home, and I'm going to tell two stories which hopefully you enjoy, and I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about your greatest travel tales, and then on the next episode, I'm going to tell my greatest travel story, and then we've got huge announcements all coming soon, so stay tuned, listen to Adam's greatest story, and we'll tell you a bit more at the end.
Yeah, so greatest travel story, I don't know what it means for you, but it could be anything that's maybe heartwarming, life-changing, inspirational. It's very difficult to pin down a story or two stories in this case, which define my travels. But I am trying to do that.
Yeah.
So these are just moments in my travel life, I suppose you could say, my travel history, that have stayed with me forever. And I would love to relive them with you now.
I'm excited to hear about them. I've not heard these stories before, have I? I've heard a word of them, like a whisper on the wind, but you've never in detail described them to me. So I'm going to be listening with breath that could only be described as bated. I'm going to listen to the stories.
Okay, so both of them actually take place in Borneo, which has got a mention on the podcast before. If you haven't heard the episode where I was in Borneo and I spotted a clouded leopard, incredibly rare.
Yeah, it's one of the stories that you've told that I'm most jealous of.
Really?
Yeah, because I would love to see a clouded leopard myself one day.
Oh, well, I'm honoured because you've seen so many wonderful things.
I've seen more than 46 animals up close, and a clouded leopard ain't one, so...
So we're in Borneo, which of course for any wildlife lover is a mecca, I think. If you haven't been to Borneo, you absolutely should. It's not cheap, but it is good.
Yeah.
Borneo being one of the largest islands in the world, it's sort of half Indonesian, half Malaysian with a bit of Brunei as well. And right up in the north, there's a place called Sabah, which is one of the states there. And there's a place called Danum Valley rainforest, which is a primary rainforest.
Okay, is Danum Valley where this story is set?
It is.
Okay.
It's also where the clouded leopard story was set.
Okay, so it yielded an incredibly high crop, this Danum Valley, for you, in terms of storying.
Well, it's where a lot of people will naturally go to see orangutans. If you hadn't already realised where this story's going.
I did call him orange at the start of the episode.
You can see the clouded leopard if you're incredibly lucky. Incredibly rare to see that. I'm very lucky. Orangutans is why people might go there. And then there's also pygmy elephants in the region as well.
Wow. So you can see the most orange of the great apes, the most clouded of the felines, and the smallest of all the elephants all in one place. Yeah. It's like a superlative-based animal haven.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. I mean, it's absolutely outrageous. The 3 days that we had there, I wouldn't change them for the world, because on day one, we saw the clouded leopard. Yeah. Day two, I'm leading up to it. Yeah. Day three, on the way out, we saw
all the clouded leopard and an orangutan riding a pygmy elephant, the sauciest animal encounter of all.
We were basically surrounded by a herd of pygmy elephants.
Wow.
About 20 kilometres away from the research centre.
All at knee height.
Yeah, they were tiny. We could have taken them. But no, that's a different story for a different day. This one is about the orangutan.
Wow. Day two in the Danum jungle.
And it's really important to add, you might be able to relate to this, but when you put an animal up on a pedestal, like the orangutan.
They don't like it, do they? They get vertigo.
But the orangutan, of course, is up there with the panda, I think. as one of the animals that people would love to see once in their lifetime. Yeah. Incredibly difficult to see. And also important to add that if you do see one in an orphanage, it's great, but it's not the real deal, is it?
No, what you see like a orangutan that's had a troubled past.
Well, no, but there's a place called Sepilok, which is awesome, and it's kind of a half-wild orphanage. So the orangutans are wild. They do live in the jungle, but they come there to get fed, and there are babies there and that kind of stuff. So you can get up quite close to them. I mean, you might have even seen videos on Instagram and stuff where people are walking along these boardwalks through the jungle, and the orangutan's just sitting on the side.
So it's like a pre-release like rehabilitation center, or it's like a hospice kind of setting?
It's not hospice.
Oh.
But it's just a sanctuary almost that's open to the jungle, and they can come down and get fed.
And they do because it's a convenient way to feed.
Yeah, and there are babies there, and there's some medical help and all this kind of stuff. So
and they get some money on the side,
and it's not free.
Yeah. We're looking after the animals. They like it here. Yeah, $5.
They choose to be here. Well, they will do if you continue to feed them. No, I'm sure that it's all done, from a good place. And
see that one there? He's an orphan. So give me $5.
Don't ask where his mum is. We don't know. We weren't involved, I promise. But anyway, so you can do that, and that is what most people do, just to guarantee an orangutan sighting. However, I wanted to go a little bit further. So we went to the Danum Valley rainforest. There's the field centre there, which is actually a research centre.
Yeah.
That in the low season, you can just hire as kind of a hostel. You can book beds in the research centre. And, if I was to say I was sharing a room with people from National Geographic, I mean, it wouldn't be a lie.
Yeah, well, I remember this story from the clouded leopard scenario, where basically you posed as a research scientist, didn't you? Put on a lab coat and went down there, got a cheap price.
No, it was really good. It was really affordable. But there was a National Geographic film crew there that was setting up camera traps. Not traps to catch the wild animals.
The orphanage numbers are getting pretty low. They're basically on a top-up mission.
Yeah, we will not be endorsing National Geographic on this show. But yeah, so what happens when you go to somewhere like this? You build it up as if you're going to see one.
Yeah.
You can't possibly go to the Danum Valley or anywhere in Borneo where you can see these orangutans, and you can't imagine what it would be like to not see one. So every rustle in the trees, every rustle in the bush, you hear maybe some other people 2 days before saw a wild orangutan. Oh my God, we're going to see one tomorrow. And every tree you walk past, you look up and you think, is that one? Oh, I think that's one. There's obviously thousands of monkeys, thousands of birds. It's incredibly, it's like a hive of activity and buzzing.
Yeah.
And you've convinced yourself that you're going to see one before you have.
So receptive to the colour orange, I imagine, in that moment.
Yeah.
Someone holds up a sheet of orange paper and you start weeping.
Yeah, that's it. I saw it. Tick it off. But we got to the end of the second day, and we were feeling a little bit disheartened because we just had no news of any. We hadn't heard that any groups had seen one. The rangers were saying that it maybe wasn't the best time. And you can either see them really early in the morning or really late at night when they come out to feed. In the day, it's usually too hot. They just hide up in the trees in the shade. So me and the people I was with my ex-partner who is French in spirit. No, she is French. And orange. She's not orange. And a German guy who did feature on another episode, actually.
I remember him, yeah. He was famous for keeping Excel spreadsheets for his budget.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm not sure I can afford this orangutan experience.
It's €1,000 a month and nothing more and nothing less.
I remember him.
So the trip was on him. No, and a Slovenian girl as well. And we had a bit of a laugh, us four. We saw the clouded leopard together. And then we ended up going to this one tree that had been touted as a great place to see the orangutans because it was fruit that was ripe on that day or for a period of days. And little tip for you guys, if you want to go and see wild animals, just go to a tree where there's some ripe fruit and you'll see loads of them.
Yeah, if the animal that you're trying to see eats fruit. I was trying to see tigers recently in India and the ripe tree technique didn't work.
No, you've got to understand its diet.
Yeah.
So we were all sort of huddled around this tree with the other, 20, 30 tourists there, looking up, hoping to see a orangutan, nothing doing. And then we lost faith and we thought, whatever, tomorrow's our last day. Fingers crossed we see something. If we don't, it's not the end of the world. We'll just go back to Sepilok where the orphans are. We were walking back down the trail to the research centre. And I said, guys, just hold up. There was this trail that looked really overgrown. I mean, it definitely was a path at some point in history. But it was overgrown. It was just like a dirt path off into the distance. And in the distance, I could see that there was like an old rusty gate. So I was like,
what colour's rust?
it's orange.
Was it a rusty gate or was it a gate with an orangutan on it?
Is that hairy? No, it was. So I walked down the path. I said, guys, just hold up. I'm just going to have a quick jog down here. I'll see if there's anything doing. So I went to the end. And at the very end, it kind of opened up into this disused campsite, I guess. It was like very overgrown. Things were in disrepair.
Actually, yeah, that campsite looks very cheap.
It looked like it hadn't been used for a really long time.
Yeah.
And I poked my head round the corner and I could see in the clearing there was a ranger who was on his phone.
Was it a ranger?
It was a ranger. A ranger. It was on his phone, and then he looked at me immediately. He was kind of startled that he'd seen me. And he said, "Oh, look, come here, come here." He waved, he gestured for me to come close to him. So I hopped over the rusty fence and then walked over to him. He pointed just I'm talking like maybe 20 meters, not even, up to, if you imagine a toilet shed, like a toilet block. So we're talking like one small floor up. Just above that, in the tree directly behind this little shed, was an enormous male orangutan.
Wow.
I mean, it was unbelievable. It was incredible. So I ran back to the rusty gate, put my head down this pathway, and I said, guys, come down here, come down here now. So the three of them sprinted up, hopped over the fence with me, and then we just stood and watched this orangutan. And I've honestly never seen anything like it. We were there for 45 minutes watching this thing strip a fig tree.
It was about to get really interesting.
Yeah.
I understood why it was your greatest travel story for a moment then. Orangutan.
I mean, famously already naked.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
Start at the end.
The most remarkable thing about it was fully clothed. Okay, so tell me what that felt like. Describe the orangutan's aesthetic to me. We already know he's orange.
He's orange.
He's large.
Lovely shade of orange, very hairy.
Yep.
We were told by the ranger, probably a 35-year-old male.
Wow.
So he's
you
a big
could know
boy.
his age with accuracy then.
Yeah, it was because of the cheek flaps.
Okay.
So sitting up in this tree, and I want to get this across to you guys, so close. So close that I felt afraid. That's how
For
close.
your safety.
Yeah, for all of our safety, yeah. I thought the power, the thing is with orangutans and big apes, and gorillas would be the same.
Orangutan's the most peaceful of the great apes.
Yeah?
Well, yeah, I mean, the others are chimpanzees, bonobos, gorillas. So, yeah, they kind of get an easy ride to be the most peaceful.
Yeah, but incredibly intelligent. He could obviously see that we were there. He was making eye contact with us and stuff. But when he was reaching up and grabbing these branches, which were, I mean, we're not talking about little twigs here.
No, we're talking about fully fledged branches.
Really thick branches. And he was just grabbing them and pulling them down towards his mouth and then stripping them of their figs, putting all the fruit in his mouth and then just almost comically spitting the pips out to one side. It was amazing. So human-like. I was looking at the detail on his skin and I could not believe that it wasn't a man in a suit.
Did he look good for 35?
I would say he looked older than 35.
Really?
Yeah, I'm no expert.
Yeah.
But he'd had a rough life, I think.
Okay, now cheek flaps, of course, they're a secondary sexual orangutan male characteristic designed to attract a mate.
Right.
Rate them out of 5?
The flaps?
Yeah.
His cheek flaps. Okay, so if I was interested in orangutans and I wanted someone particularly flappy.
Yeah. Well, you do, because it's like, in the orangutan world, that's a sign. That's like having a really dense beard, you know? It's a secondary sexual characteristic.
I love the way you picked one of your own.
Well, it's a secondary sexual characteristic.
Okay, love it. Yeah, I mean, we'd be fighting over him for sure.
Okay, nice. So you liked his flaps.
I can imagine he was sought after.
Wow, man, I'm jealous of the experience because I, of course, am constantly in pursuit of orange animals, having tried 5 times to see a tiger in the wild in India and failing miserably each time.
Yeah.
I've never seen an orange animal before, apart from maybe an ocelot. I looked after a baby ocelot once in the Amazon.
Yeah.
So he was quite orange. But other than that, I've never seen one.
Yeah, I mean, the difference with an orangutan, again, because it's something that is so rare to see out in the wild, and given how human-like this orangutan was, I just want to describe the emotions that I was feeling. I was absolutely stunned. And I was actually experiencing emotions that I've never experienced before in my life. Certainly not at the same time, because I was so awestruck that I was left speechless. The other group, they were kind of milling around. The German guy took 220 photos of this orangutan in less than 40 minutes, which is quite incredible.
Was that above his budget for photos? Or?
Yeah, well, maybe he started a little business, orangutan photo business, where he was making some of that budget up. But he features in the story in the second half of the episode as well, would you believe? And I was crying as well. I was so moved by the whole thing, floods of tears. I wanted to be sick. I felt like I was going to vomit. My stomach was turning as well. I was in absolute state of euphoria. I mean, I don't think I've ever been as happy to this day as I was when I was watching that orangutan. And I was equally frightened. So a lot of things going on, hell of an emotional roller coaster to experience in such a short amount of time. And then once we'd been there for about half an hour, more and more people started to show up. I think the ranger that was on the phone, this is obviously the downside of wildlife, is that when there's wealthy people around, there are people that are willing to pay a lot of money to guarantee wildlife sightings.
Yeah.
And the word gets round from the ranger that there's a male orangutan in the vicinity. And then, of course, you get the really wealthy tourists show up with their private guide. And it's like, oh, there you go. There's that orangutan you paid for.
Let me quickly dart it for you so you can have a closer look.
You said it'd be eating a fig. But yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a shame when more and more people came. And that kind of cut the experience short. However, that wasn't before we got so close to the fens. Basically, the building that it was above was inside this kind of disused campsite area, and it was on a tree just outside of the perimeter. But the branches from the tree that it was sitting on came into the campsite. And we got so close that I started panicking, and I said to the guys who were in front of me, they were so close to the fence, and this thing was just the other side. I was like, guys, I'm not being funny. This thing will fuck you up if it wants to. And they were trying to get closer photos and get even closer to it. And I just thought it was a real misunderstanding of what this animal can do. Because I, for one, and I'm sure that you share this, is that the risk of scaring an animal or making it feel uncomfortable for whatever reason is absolutely not the idea here. I would rather see it from further away and know, or have it know, that I'm absolutely no threat. You don't want to distress a wild animal. Why would you? Just to get a closer look.
I think a lot of people think they love animals so much that it's like, oh, come on, it will like me too. I'll get closer. I want to I love it so much. I want to get, but you're just stressing it out, really, aren't you?
Yeah.
But the orangutan didn't show any signs of distress. It was chill.
No, it did. It left. So it basically climbed down to the same level. And just as it got above the fence, it did a sort of a move forward, a jolt forward, almost like you would square up to someone.
Oh,
if
really?
You were about to fight
it did
them.
that.
But it was in control of the situation. I mean, they all shat themselves and run in the other direction.
Right.
They ran further away than I was. And, I sort of, he looked at me and he was like,
oh, you shared a moment with the orangutan.
Shared a moment. I said, mate, I've got you. These guys are knobs.
Yeah.
I
gave 2 thumbs up.
No, of course, the people that I was with are great, but I just thought that was a little bit misguided or not a great reading of the situation. And when the orangutan did that, he was kind of like, he's just told you. I could fuck you up if I wanted. So back off. And he scooted down the other side of the fence and he just sort of walked along the floor and we never saw him again.
I loved the story, mate. It was really beautiful. I loved it because it's about man's connection with the animal world. And I think it's a perfect example of what makes a great travel story. Let's think about that as we go on a brief meditation break.
Alan, we should make a place where fans of the show can listen to episodes, read articles, and maybe contact us.
Done it.
What?
Tripologypodcast.com.
Oh, should we put a link in the description?
It's already there.
You are good.
Like an orange primate with colossal facial flaps, allow your conscious mind to return into your brain. We're hearing Adam's greatest travel stories as part of an item we like to call Adam's greatest travel stories. Adam, what's your second greatest travel story?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is in no particular order. I wanted to start off on the right foot, on the front foot, with it being something overwhelmingly positive, and hopefully something that's, going to inspire more and more people to go to Borneo. However, this story also happened in Borneo, but is maybe not what you want to happen to you because it involves diving, which, as we know, is pretty dangerous. And I actually don't know if people give it credit for how dangerous it can be.
Yeah, I think recreational diving, which is, by the way, recreational diving has to be 30 meters max or 100 feet max. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So
if you do like an open water, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, your PADI open water course.
I think that's relatively safe in terms of the fact that you can probably just do the Superman, blow out and go to the top, and you'll probably avoid the bends.
Yeah. The bends. I think it's actually what I've been told. It's pretty difficult. Not difficult to get the bends, of course, in the horrendous circumstances that you do. But I think people think the bends are much more common than they actually are in practice. Hopefully. But yeah, I mean, Borneo itself, known as a world-class diving location. Especially up in the northeast. There's a place called Semporna. Again, we're kind of in the Sabah region, right in the north of Borneo. A place called Semporna. You use it as a jumping off point to get to an island called Mabul. Now, Mabul is famous for micro dive. You know all these little things you can see? I mean, they're not just little, they're fucking tiny.
Yeah. You're diving with 2 microscopes.
Yeah, it's amazing. You can do these dives with dive instructors and dive masters where the guy's like, you're underwater, obviously, and he's pointing at something. And you think, well, what's he pointing at? There's nothing there. You get a bit closer and you're like, it's just a piece of dust. And then you get even closer and it's like, oh my God, it's a fucking shrimp. Or something like that. You know, this stuff on this level is incredible and it's very, very famous for it. So if you are interested in that sort of stuff, then definitely go there. But one of the reasons why people go to this area is actually for an island called Sipadan, which is much further. You have to get a speedboat, usually a speedboat, from Mabul to get to Sipadan. Now, Sipadan is a protected area. It's a protected island, conservation area. Used to be a resort or two on it. Now there is not.
Okay.
They're basically trying to rewild it. And in order to dive on Sipadan and the reefs around Sipadan, the dive sites around Sipadan, it's pretty difficult and eye-wateringly expensive. You can buy packages in Borneo that allow you to do, let's say, a few days diving in Mabul and surrounds. And if you're lucky, I was told, right, this is in Kota Kinabalu where I booked the whole thing.
In Kota Kinabalu.
Remix. That there is a 6-month waiting list in some cases to get one of the 120 dive permits for Sipadan at any given time. So I was incredibly lucky. I put myself on the cancellation list. And lo and behold, the following week, when I was still in Borneo, they said, there's a cancellation that's come up. It's X amount of money. And what we recommend people do, because Sipadan is such, I'm not going to say technical, because I don't think you need loads of experience to dive there, but it is a serious dive site. You can't go there and do like your open water if you've never done a dive before. You can't go and do a refresher course at Sipadan.
Right.
It's serious stuff. And the people that I was on the boat with were so much more experienced than I was. We're talking like 80 dives, 120 dives. These are people that go diving 5 or 6 times a year. They go on holiday specifically to dive. In the run-up to go to Sipadan, because this is like the absolute pinnacle. If you type in top 10 dive sites in the world, usually Sipadan will come up on the list. I hadn't been diving for over a year.
Oh, so you have to do that swimming pool refresher course though, don't you?
Yeah, not always in a swimming pool, but I did feel a little bit like that. And the dive resort, so I bought this package. It was like 3 or 4 days diving in the lead up to the dive at Sipadan. Mm-hmm. And then the final day was 4 dives in 1 day at Sipadan. So it was this great sort of diving 4 or 5 day package, staying in a hostel on Mabul that I had organised. And the first port of call was to basically do this refresher course. I hadn't been diving for over a year. It was actually 3 years at that point. So, I mean, I'm not asking any questions. I want to do the refresher course because, it's dangerous and whatever. It's important that I know what I'm doing underwater. And the girl that I got paired up with, or the woman that I was paired up with to do a refresher course as well, who had also booked a similar package, was a far more experienced diver than I was.
Do you like diving with more experienced divers, or do you think it's intimidating?
Well, it'd be interesting to get your opinion on this in terms of the community, because I would imagine it's similar to climbing. It's probably similar to jiu-jitsu, is that usually people who are really experienced
elevate you.
They're super humble and they're really encouraging. She wasn't at all.
Oh.
She her last dive, she's a Dutch lady, otherwise quite nice. But because she had done her last dive a year and a week and a half ago, it was like such an annoying amount of time. And this was like her 86th dive or something. So she's pretty experienced. She was livid at the fact that she had to pay for a refresher's course.
Right.
Especially with Muggins over here.
It's been 53 and a half weeks, CR, so you're going to have to wait.
You know, the cut-off is somewhere, right? If it's a year and a week, 2 years, 6 months, it's somewhere.
Yeah.
And they were very rigid. They said, look, for legal reasons, if anything happens to you, if you go diving and we know that your most recent dive is actually over a year ago, there's a policy, we have to stick to it, you've got to do a refresher.
Because of skill degradation over time, you know, no matter if you're the most skilled surgeon in the world, if you've not cut anyone open in 53 and a half weeks, you're going to have to learn that bit again.
Exactly. So we were doing the refresher, and the entire time, you know me better than anyone else, you know I'm quite receptive, I'm sensitive, and if I'm with someone who's like in a mood or frustrated or sad or whatever, I like to think I'm quite empathetic and I feel that energy. So
yeah, and usually think it's it's because of something you've done or
I take
maybe
it very
related
personally
to you. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were on this boat. She was already in a stinking mood, and she made it absolutely clear. I'm pretty sure from memory she even said words to the effect of, you know, I'm not like this guy, pointing at me. I mean, he's done like 30 dives. And it's 3 years ago. Yeah. Obviously, he needs to do it.
I'm actually a master of this. So,
quite frankly, it's embarrassing that we're even being considered in the same breath. But she was on the thing, and we ended up doing, for her, I totally appreciate it was probably incredibly boring because you're going through all the hand signals at 5 meters and all this kind of stuff on this refresher course. That's dive number 1.
She still hasn't done it in a year and a half, so a year and a bit.
A year and a little bit, just trickled over. But the second dive was okay. We went down a little bit deeper for a bit longer, and we're kind of diving together and whatever. I'm still feeling quite bad, and I feel quite nervous in this situation because it's been such a long time since I've done a dive, so I'm already quite nervous, and I'm trying to remember everything I knew, follow the thing, the guide.
Is she good under the water? Is she like mermaid level, like swimming about, looping around you, that sort of shit?
There's, in terms of her ability, there's no way she needed to do a refresher.
Oh, okay, she was good.
She's an excellent diver.
Yeah.
But she just didn't want to be there with me.
Right.
I was really cramping her style.
Yeah.
She hated it. And she made me know that. And she made the dive guide know that.
How does she make you know it underwater? Does she like take a respirator out and blow angry bubbles at you?
No, you just give it
bubble beam.
Yeah, a little snarky look every now and again, like, go on, fuck off.
Yeah.
Go on, get lost. But then the third dive of the day came, which anyone who's an experienced diver, I'm sure there's loads of people listening to this far more experienced than I am. The third dive of the day, you do have to be a little bit careful because we've already been underwater twice. We've obviously been underwater with oxygen tanks, under the pressure, all this kind of stuff. And typically, I think it's safe. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But the third dive of the day is often the shortest and the shallowest.
Why is that?
For that reason, because you've been underwater for so long at pressure.
Just to get because you've got nitrogen build up in
all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So we went down to a depth of about 17, 18 meters on the third dive, but it was also the dive when the preamble to this was that we've been doing the signs, we've been refreshing our memory and all this kind of stuff. So we felt more comfortable on that dive. It was just going to be the shortest. Now, we were swimming between 2 reefs. Unfortunately, at the beginning of the day, as is the same with lots of areas around the world when you dive, the water's like quite calm, good visibility, all this sort of stuff. But in the afternoon, the clouds were coming in, it was really kicking up, it was getting windy, so the visibility was pretty shit. Imagine it's just me and this Dutch woman, who I know doesn't want to be there, and the dive guide, both incredibly competent divers, and I'm third dive of the day, absolutely exhausted, still not a clue what the fuck I'm doing, because it's been 3 years, and then the visibility is terrible and the current is whipping up. And I'm actually struggling to keep up with them.
You can feel the warm swell when the current starts whipping up, can't you?
And we were swimming along this wall, this reef, this wall, and we were 17 meters down. I completely lost sight of them, and then I begun to panic. And I can even, as I'm telling the story now, I can remember it so vividly. I saw their flippers go off in the distance, and I was trying to speed up, swim as fast as I could to catch up with them. Visibility, as I said, was pretty poor, lots of sediment floating around, and then there was a huge current, like a big forceful kind of wave, underwater wave if you like, and it took my regulator clean out of my mouth.
Oh dear.
And I panicked big time.
So what you're supposed to do when that happens is swim your right hand behind
engage
the body.
the gills.
Yeah, exactly. My colossal cheek flaps. You reach your hand behind your back to collect the regulator, because it's somewhere back there.
Yeah, it's the hose. You would catch the hose if you do that motion, that windmill motion.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, you're totally right.
Didn't do that though.
Well, it's very easy to say that now, and obviously I didn't die because I'm here telling you the story.
Well,
am I? But it's very easy to say that, and in hindsight, and even like before, if you would ask me, you know to do that. That's pretty straightforward. You maybe blow out a little bit and you get those little bubbles going.
Well, you need to constantly be breathing when you're underwater. You can't hold your breath at that depth, because if you change your elevation a little bit, your lungs will expand or collapse. So always, if you've not got the regulator in, you've got to be breathing it out.
Yeah, and had I had more time or been able to think clearly, I would have just done the windmill motion, popped the regulator back in, purged, got all the water out, and then just started breathing as normal and ended up probably catching up with them. But that isn't what happened. I panicked. I opened my mouth with it, out. I immediately swallowed so much water.
Well, I bet, yeah.
I think even in that scenario, it's still possible to rectify the situation. I think even then, if I had done the windmill motion and still purged, I think it probably would have been retrievable. But I was thinking, oh my God, I'm 17 meters down. I'm on my own. I'm absolutely fucked.
Can you see the surface of the water above you?
I mean, you can see that it is the surface. There's obviously more light than below.
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily disorientated in terms of my whether I was
your orientation.
Yeah, up or down or whatever. But
up or down, gay or straight. It's orientation. It's confusing down there under the water.
God, this tastes salty. But then I was thinking. I thought I was going to die. Obviously, I thought I was going to die. I was swallowing so much water.
Did you keep on swallowing it?
Yeah.
Oh, because once you swallowed it once, you tried to spit it out, open your mouth again.
I mean, what do you do? Imagine being 17 meters underwater, which, by the way, I think is a couple of stories.
Yeah.
You've already swallowed water. You don't know what to do apart from kick as fast as you possibly can to get to the surface.
Once you've committed to swallowing water as a strategy, you've either got to keep on drinking it until there's no more sea, or stop drinking it immediately before you die.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was just awful. It was absolute survival mode, mate. Survival. I thought, just get to the top as fast as you can. I wasn't necessarily contemplating whether I was going to contract the bends or not.
That you contract it.
But develop, whatever.
A mermaid swims up to you just as you're halfway there. You got the bends now, boy. Okay, so you were like, fuck the bends. I want to breathe. Sweet, sweet air again, baby.
Yeah, so I kicked as fast as I could. Luckily, managed to get to the top. Got to the top, broke the surface, vomited immediately everywhere, and I'm like spluttering.
Oh, because of the salt water.
Yeah, waving my arms around, and then I could see the boat. A couple of minutes later, the boat spotted me and drove up and got me in the boat. I'm still like vomiting off the side in the boat, and then about a minute after that, from memory, the guys came to the surface as well. We cancelled the dive. They got on the boat. Obviously, I wasn't that woman's best friend at that point.
What did she say?
Yeah, well, she was just like...
Did you see that mermaid halfway up? That was me.
Serves you right. No, we just didn't really talk. It was quite strange. The dive guide was really looking after me and obviously knew that it was pretty serious what had happened. He did tell me that it was unlikely that I got the bends. He said you would know within, a very short time, 5-10 minutes or whatever, if you're walking and talking.
It's unlikely that you've got the ends. Let's play Radiohead.
So, yeah, I was still panicking because I didn't really understand the damage I could have done. It could be a bubble on the brain, which I think is what bends is and all that kind of stuff. But vomiting, I felt quite bad that they'd had to cancel the dive as a result of me doing that. I felt, I was...
How long had the dive been going on for?
The dive itself?
Yeah.
12 minutes.
Okay, so yeah. I'm a bit of an oxygen guzzler, so 12 minutes for me is approaching the end anyway.
Yeah, I mean, 12 minutes even for the third dive of the day is pretty short.
It's quite brief, yeah.
I don't know, maybe it cut her day short and she was happy. But we got back to the dive site, back to the resort itself, and I was feeling really down in the dumps because, of course, I've got another 4 days diving coming up. I've paid 850 quid for the whole package. It's really not cheap. And now I'm absolutely shitting myself that I can never dive another day in my life. The trauma of almost drowning is significant.
And the letdown as well, of thinking that you could drink the whole sea and then not being able to. It's disappointing in yourself as well, I imagine.
Yeah, it was a lose-lose. So anyway, I was having dinner that night. I was trying to keep a low profile. Word got out that, they'd cancelled the dive.
But you had an orientation crisis deep under the water.
It's not the time, not now.
See, Adam, got off with a mermaid. Now he's contracted the bends.
And look, the dive resort manager came over and said, "Mate, I heard what happened. Your dive guide told me. How you feeling?" I said, "Well, yeah, I feel awful. Like I'm worried I'm not going to be able to do any of the dives and all this sort of stuff." He said, "Look, you're probably fine. The fact that you're here now chatting to me, eating dinner means that you're fine.
Yeah.
I just want to know what you want to do next." And I said, "Well, what would you do, knowing my situation, knowing I've got the dives coming up?" He said, "Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, you get back in the water."
Oh, that's a good bloke.
I was like, "Really?" He was like, Absolutely. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, I'll get you out on a boat and we'll get in the water together and you'll just do it as if it never happened.
Get back on the horse.
So, long story short, mate, that's what I did. And I had the 4 best days diving of my entire life. It was absolutely extraordinary. And, I'm sure over the coming weeks, months and years, I'll drip feed a few of those Sipadan diving stories as well if I haven't been back there before that. But highly, highly recommend Borneo for diving. I mean, it is absolutely extraordinary.
So if you have a silly experience in Sipadan, then you must get back on the horse. Because if sometimes life throws you a bitter lemon, you've got to churn that thing up and do it again, baby, because that's part of what traveling and life's all about, isn't it? Get back on the horse, keep on trucking.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a seahorse joke in there somewhere. But the thing is, I'm someone that plays a lot with their regulator in their mouth. And maybe just don't do that. I can feel myself chewing the little mouth guard thing. I sometimes play around. I think, what's the most effective way to breathe? And I'm constantly monitoring my gauge and that kind of stuff. So diving, I mean, I know that there's thousands and thousands of people that do it all over the world and there's absolutely no problem. But if it does go wrong, it can be serious. And I think I just got quite lucky.
Couple of lessons there for everyone. I thought it was a great story. Thank you for sharing it.
Thank you.
Adam's greatest travel stories. Wouldn't it be good if we, as the Tripological community, found a way that we can hear other people's greatest stories from all over the world? We have got that way. If you go to tripologypodcast.com/tales of a trip, there is a link in the description of this episode, wherever you're watching it, you'll find a big red button, a bouton rouge. If you click on that, it will give you 3 minutes with which you can tell your greatest travel story. And going forward, in Tripology, we're going to play one of you listeners' greatest travel stories every single episode. It's a new feature we're going to call Tales of a Trip. Me and Adam will hear the best travel stories of people all over the world. We'll talk about them. We'll comment on them. It's going to be a way to bring the Tripological audience closer together.
Yeah, it's going to be a great way of building community. We're always inspired by other people's stories and experiences. And greatest travel story can be anything that's super heartwarming, like we say, life-changing, dangerous, maybe a near-death experience, all of the above. We know that there's some great stories out there and we hope you send them in. We can't wait to hear them.
Yeah, perhaps you met your best friend traveling and it was all beautiful. That can be your greatest travel story. Maybe, like Adam, you nearly had a fist fight with an orangutan. That's an amazing travel story. There's so many things that we want to hear, from the emotional to the beautiful, to the memorable, to the dynamic. You've only got 3 minutes to tell them. You can re-record, you can have a practice, you can go like that, be a part of the Tripological community. We're going to go off to the Patreon section now, the Lost and Found, patreon.com/Tripology Podcast. We've got an exclusive Patreon t-shirt that's coming out. We've got all sorts of brilliant things going on, so sign up to the Patreon now, only $1 a month. Shall we go there now?
Yeah, I look forward to it, mate.
We'll see you all next week.
We'll see you there. Bye.